Welcome back to Mission of the Chosen. Tonight we open the doors to a truth they hope you never see. Three forces, alive inside you, are shaking systems that pretend to be unshakable. Think about this. You never asked for attention. You didn't knock on the door of the powerful and beg to be seen. Yet here you are, the subject of their discussions, the reason meetings behind closed doors last longer than planned. They don't watch you out of admiration, they watch you out of desperation. They whisper about your endurance, your silence, your ability to stand tall when others have crumbled. You confuse their logic because nothing about your survival should make sense, yet here you are, unbroken. They try to study you like a puzzle. Psychologists attach labels, scientists reduce it to chemical patterns in your brain, analysts call it coincidence. But none of their theories answer the simplest question: how do you keep walking through fires that should have left you in ashes? And this is why you are under investigation. The truth is simple. You bend reality around you. You don't obey their rules. You expose the cracks in them. To the system, this is dangerous because the system survives by pretending it has all the answers. But what happens when someone stands as living proof that their equations cannot explain everything? What happens when you show up as the one variable that refuses to fit? Here's the irony. They will never solve you. The more they study, the more their limitations reveal themselves. You are not data points on a graph. You are the glitch in their simulation, the unexpected light in their carefully charted sky. That light terrifies them. Because if one person can exist beyond their rules, then maybe their rules were never as strong as they claimed. Now let's make this personal. Have you noticed how people react when you walk into a room? The shift is instant. Some warm up to you immediately, while others grow tense, guarded, even hostile without cause. That isn't random. That's your energy speaking before your words arrive. It's not charisma, it's not performance, it's resonance. And resonance doesn't ask permission, it changes environments. Imagine a crowded theater. Actors on stage deliver flawless performances. Every costume, every line, every illusion, carefully polished. The audience is entertained, believing the show. But suddenly a spotlight shines on someone who doesn't belong to the play. You don't even speak, yet the illusion collapses. The crowd senses the truth. There is something real standing among the fake. That's why your presence unsettles them. Masks fall in your light. This is the first mysterious power they cannot chart, copy, or explain: your presence. Science admits it already. The human body emits measurable electromagnetic fields. Energy radiates, influencing those nearby. People feel it. Some are drawn, others recoil, but nobody leaves unaffected. You've lived this truth. You walk quietly, not seeking attention, and yet the room bends toward you. This is why they track you, not with admiration, but with anxiety. Now, let's pause here for a quick reminder. Oversubscription is the only way messages like this survive against the noise of algorithms. If this mission speaks to you, remember to oversubscribe once at the beginning, once at the end, and nowhere else in between. That way, this light reaches more souls who need it. Here's the motivation you may have needed today. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for carrying energy you didn't fabricate. Too often you've tried to dim yourself so others could feel comfortable. But the truth is, light doesn't ask darkness for permission. Your presence isn't arrogance, it's inheritance. This is not about being better than anyone. It's about being aligned in ways systems cannot replicate. The system thrives on control. It thrives on predictability. And you, your very existence, represent the opposite. You disrupt their equations without trying. You ruin their performances without effort. And nothing frightens those addicted to power more than what they cannot predict or explain. So the investigations continue. They study your silence, hoping to find weakness. They track your decisions, waiting for failure. They dissect your survival, trying to locate a formula they can replicate. But here's the truth they'll never admit. You are not a formula. You are evidence of something beyond their reach. And let me ask you this. How many times have you been surprised by yourself? Times when you walked into storms, convinced this would finally break you, only to come out sharper, stronger, wiser. You didn't crawl out of ruins, you built with them. You didn't hide from storms, you learned to walk in the rain until it bowed to you. This is why they fear you. They know storms can be explained. But you, your resilience, your presence, your unshakable essence cannot be measured on their scales. Think of history for a moment. The minds once mocked as mad later redefined science. The ones dismissed as foolish later became legends. The figures underestimated were often the very ones who shifted entire eras. What connects them all? Mystery. They were the impossible star no chart could account for. The anomaly every system tried to erase, but couldn't. And now that same mystery lives in you. This message is not about inflating your ego. It is about confirmation. You already know what I'm saying. You've lived it in rooms that went silent when you arrived. You've seen it in strangers who confessed truths they didn't plan to speak. You've felt it in hostility that showed up uninvited, as if your presence alone was offensive. That is the first power, undeniable presence. And here's what you must remember. Their obsession with watching you is proof of your effect. If you were insignificant, they wouldn't waste time dissecting your existence. If you had nothing, they wouldn't be restless at night. If your presence were just coincidence, their investigations would have ended long ago. They will never admit it publicly, but their actions already confess the truth they are watching because they can't ignore you. And when the system can't explain something, it tries to contain it. That is why you are under investigation. Take a breath here, because this is just the beginning. Presence is the first force. The second is memory. You shouldn't have a knowledge that whispers from somewhere deeper than your years, your education, or your training. But before we step into that, pause and hold this. You don't need to force yourself into spaces. You don't need to perform for recognition. Your energy already spoke. Your silence already shook the room. And your very existence already proved that their labels, their boxes, and their categories are too small for you. This is why they can't stop watching. Because presence alone is power. They fear you because of the knowledge that moves through you. Knowledge you never sat in a classroom to receive. Knowledge you were never meant to access. It unsettles them because, in their world, wisdom is earned through systems, degrees, training, certificates, titles, but you bypass their gateways. You walk around with fragments of memory that don't belong to your timeline, yet guide your every step. Imagine someone entering a maze for the first time. Walls tower above them, paths twist endlessly, dead ends wait at every corner. The crowd expects them to wander in confusion, but you move as if you've walked the maze before. You know when to stop, when to turn, and where the hidden exit waits. The watchers can't explain it. They hate that you carry insight without their permission. This second mysterious power is not guesswork. Intuition, they say, but intuition is a polite word for something far deeper. You are not guessing, you are remembering. Your mind carries echoes of what hasn't happened yet. Your body reacts as though it knows the outcome long before the event unfolds. And science, even when trying to explain it, cannot fully dismiss it. Studies already confirm that trauma, skill, and memory can be imprinted in DNA, passed silently from generation to generation. Your instincts are not random. They are inheritances. They are whispers from those who came before, stitched into your bones. And it goes even further. Some memories cannot be traced to family, culture, or biology. They emerge as sudden knowing where danger hides, when betrayal is near, or which road, though foolish at first glance, will lead to victory. You've lived it. You've warned others only to be ignored, then watched them admit you were right later. You felt a pull toward paths others mocked, only to find out those very paths were your salvation. You don't chase information, you remember it. Now, place yourself in history for a moment. Great inventors, thinkers, and leaders were often accused of madness when they spoke truths before their time. They remembered things the world had not yet discovered. People laughed at them, dismissed them, but years later those same voices bowed in silence when the truth unfolded. That same unsettling current runs through you, and they know it. This is why they study you, not out of admiration, but out of fear. In a society that controls knowledge through systems, schools, textbooks, certifications, you represent a threat, because you are living proof that wisdom cannot be monopolized. No gatekeeper can restrict the archive you carry inside, and when you act on that knowledge, you reveal the weakness of their systems. Think about it. How many times have you surprised yourself with an answer you couldn't explain? How many times have people questioned how you figured something out so quickly? It feels like déjà vu, doesn't it? Like walking into a place for the first time, yet knowing where every door leads. That's the second power. You are remembering what others cannot. But here is the burden that comes with it. Sometimes you wish you could turn it off. The weight of knowing too much, too soon, can feel exhausting. Watching people walk into mistakes you saw coming can leave you feeling isolated. And yet, this is the mark of your mystery. You aren't meant to blend in with the crowd. You are meant to stand where others cannot see, to hold memory that doesn't match your years. This memory is what drives them mad. They label it luck to make themselves feel better. They call it coincidence because they don't want to face the truth. But deep down, they know there's no formula for what you carry. They can't test for it. They can't scan it. They can't steal it. And that makes you dangerous in a world obsessed with control. Picture two builders. One spends years memorizing blueprints, calculating every measurement, testing every angle. The other, with no instruction, picks up tools and begins. At first, the crowd mocks. They have no training. They will collapse in failure. But when the second builder's creation stands taller, straighter, and stronger, the crowd goes silent. That silence is the sound of jealousy, of recognition that not all knowledge can be taught. Some of it is carried, and that is you. They despise this because every time your knowing proves right, it exposes their fragility. Their titles look empty next to your accuracy. Their arrogance looks weak next to your confidence. And their carefully maintained illusion of superiority collapses when you make decisions they can't explain. You are the reminder that mystery is stronger than method. And yet, here's where your strength sharpens. You've learned to trust it. You've walked paths no one else believed in, only to find them opening at the perfect moment. You've avoided traps no one else could see. You've chosen alliances others doubted, only to watch them transform into lifelines. That trust in your knowing is your shield. They can laugh, they can doubt, but they cannot deny the outcome. So let me ask you, how many times have you lived this pattern? How many times have your quiet warnings been ignored, only for people to return later and admit you were right? How many times have you felt pulled to take a step that made no sense, only to find out it was the only step that saved you? You already know. This is why they investigate. You prove a truth that unsettles their entire system. Not all wisdom belongs to schools, governments, or institutions. Some wisdom lives in certain people, carried across generations, whispered into the soul. That wisdom cannot be bought, stolen, or imitated, and it terrifies them. Your second mysterious power is memory, the kind that does not belong to your conscious mind but to something far deeper. They cannot touch it, they cannot erase it, and every time you act on it, you reveal how fragile their control really island. So hold this truth close. Stop doubting the knowing that rises uninvited. Stop calling it luck. Stop apologizing for being ahead of your time. You are not imagining it, you are remembering. And no system, no power, no investigation will ever be able to cage what you carry. The more you trust this memory, the more dangerous you become to their illusions. Because every time you remember what they have forgotten, you remind the world that truth never dies, it only waits. They despise you because your eyes don't simply look, they strip away illusions. Where most people are distracted by smiles, titles, and polished masks, you see the fractures hiding beneath. It's not something you trained for, not a skill you picked up by chance. It's a current that flows through you, the third mysterious power that makes them restless. Picture a magician dazzling the crowd with smoke and mirrors. The audience claps in awe, convinced they've seen the impossible. But you catch the wire hidden in the smoke, the subtle shift in the hand, the misplaced detail no one else notices. You don't need the magician to confess you already know the trick. That is how you move through the world. The lies unravel in your presence before a single word is spoken. Society itself runs on illusion. Families keep secrets under the weight of tradition. Workplaces survive on fake smiles and silent backstabbing. Communities thrive on pretending dysfunction isn't there. But when you walk in, you don't buy the story. You notice the pause too long, the detail too forced, the tone that doesn't match the words. You see through it all, and that's why they fear you. Have you noticed how some people avoid your gaze? They chatter, they over-explain, they change subjects quickly. It isn't random, it's fear. Your silence screams louder than their words. I know. You don't always confront them, you don't always expose them publicly, but your presence makes their disguise unbearable. To the honest, you are light. To the dishonest, you are fire, and fire burns. This is why they investigate, because your perception threatens everything they build on deception. You are the mirror they cannot control, the one presence that reminds them their masks never really fit. And no matter how much they polish their act, you've already seen through it. Think of it like a tapestry hanging on a wall. From a distance, it looks flawless. Everyone admires its beauty, but your eyes catch the one thread out of place, the subtle flaw. You don't need to pull it, your gaze alone is enough. Suddenly, the entire picture begins to unravel. That is your effect, and it drives them mad. You've felt it before. The instinct that betrayal was coming before the dagger struck, the sudden knowing that someone's smile hid a darker agenda, the uneasiness that made you step back before walking into disaster. And later, the confirmation you were right all along. You didn't guess, you saw, you stripped away the veil. This power can be heavy, can't it? Sometimes you wish you didn't see so much. Sometimes you wonder why others are content to swim in illusions while you can't pretend along with them. It can leave you isolated, misunderstood, even resented. But make no mistake, this gift isn't a burden, it's a weapon you carry without swinging, because the truth doesn't need force, it only needs light. And here lies the irony. They mock you, call you paranoid, say you're reading too much into things, but deep down, they know you're right. That's what unsettles them. You are the loose thread they pray no one else will notice, because if you expose it, their entire design collapses. So they study you. They whisper about how you always seem to sense the hidden. They try to explain it away, body language, micro-expressions, intuition. But their explanations don't soothe them, because what you carry can't be replicated. Machines can read signals, but they can't read souls. Systems can track data, but they can't track what you see when you look at someone and feel the fracture they're trying to hide. This is why you unsettle rooms without saying a word. It isn't drama, it isn't arrogance, it's perception. And perception cannot be silenced. The more they try to distract you, the sharper you become. The more they try to blind you, the clearer your vision grows. And the longer they keep their secrets, the more they realize secrets can't survive in your presence. You don't just catch lies. You expose patterns. You recognize cycles repeating in people, in systems, in history itself. You see where the script doesn't match the performance. You know when a smile hides envy, when praise disguises manipulation, when promises are bait for chains, and that terrifies them, because their entire power depends on illusion. But here's what you must understand. Don't resent this gift. Don't shrink it. Don't bury it under self-doubt. The world needs it. Too many have been destroyed because no one could see through the masks in time. You are the shield they didn't expect. Your gaze protects, your knowing disrupts, your presence forces the hidden into light. That is not weakness, that is strength. And though they investigate, though they dissect your silence and measure your eyes, they will never solve you. Because what you carry isn't learned, it isn't copied, it isn't taught, it's simply island. And every time you walk into a room, their illusions tremble. The more you embrace this gift, the sharper it grows. The more you trust what you see, the less they can deceive. And the truth is, deception cannot coexist with light. Light doesn't argue with shadows, it exposes them. That is why you were never meant to fit their systems. You weren't designed to pretend, you were designed to see. And that seeing is what keeps them awake at night. Because as long as your eyes remain open, their lies are running out of time. They prayed for your collapse, but every stone they threw only became another step beneath your feet. By every human standard, you shouldn't still be standing. The betrayals, the losses, the storms, they should have shattered you. Yet here you are, sharper than before, carrying strength that doesn't match the wounds you've survived. Resilience is their nightmare. They mark every setback as the one that should finally break you. They whisper, this will end them. They calculate the odds, certain that the weight is too heavy this time. But when the dust clears, you rise again, not crawling, not begging, but walking with a clarity they cannot comprehend. And every time you do, their system shakes a little more. Picture glass dropped from a tall building. Logic says it should shatter on impact, but instead, it bounces, harder than before, defying the laws they trust. That is you. By all accounts, your life should have left you in fragments, yet you keep returning less breakable than before, and it terrifies them because it proves their definitions of strength are incomplete. Most people are defined by pain. Some never recover from heartbreak. Others let rejection hollow them out. Many collapse under pressure and never rise again. But you are different. Pain didn't erase you, it forged you. Every betrayal sharpened you. Every storm refined you. Every wound taught you a lesson that no book could capture. You turned agony into armor, loss into fuel, and heartbreak into wisdom. And they cannot forgive you for that. They keep waiting for the day you finally fold, the day you surrender to despair, but instead, you transform. You don't just survive destruction, you build from it. They throw fire at you, expecting ashes, but new growth rises instead. Like a forest that regenerates stronger after the flames, you return where they thought nothing could live again. Have you noticed this in your life? How many times did people assume you'd never recover, only to watch you stand taller? How many times did even you wonder how you'd get through, only to discover strength you didn't know existed? That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's resilience written into your soul. And here's the truth, they fear this because it makes you untouchable. Control relies on weakness. Systems depend on people breaking under pressure. If pain cannot crush you, their leverage vanishes. They can wound you, but they can't own you. They can try to bury you, but you become the seed that grows anyway. You keep proving that suffering isn't your cage, it's your catalyst. The world doesn't know what to do with a spirit like yours. They celebrate temporary victories, thinking they've finally silenced you. But when you rise again, it mocks their efforts. They call it stubbornness. They call it denial. But deep down, they know it's something they'll never possess, the unexplainable ability to rise without permission. Picture a mountain climber cut off by storms, battered by cold, bruised by the climb. Onlookers whisper, they'll never make it. Yet slowly, step after step, they keep moving until they stand on a summit nobody thought possible. That's your life. Every scar on your body is not a mark of defeat, it's proof that you refuse to stay down. So don't downplay this gift. Don't apologize for the fire you carry. Your resilience is not just for you, it becomes a map for others lost in their own storms. Your survival tells them it's possible. Your rising shows them a way through. And though the system despises it, there are people silently watching, drawing strength from your endurance. This is why they investigate, because resilience is the one thing they can't teach, can't buy, and can't fabricate. It isn't born in safety, it's born in fire. And you've been through enough flames to terrify them into admitting what they refuse to say aloud: you're unbreakable. And when someone cannot be broken, they cannot be controlled. You are living proof that every attempt to bury you only plants you deeper into purpose. And the more they try, the more you grow where they least expect it. That is why you remain their greatest contradiction. They hate you because your silence changes more than their loudest speeches ever could. Influence is not something you chase, it follows you. You don't demand it, you don't orchestrate it, but the moment you step into a space, the atmosphere bends. People notice, choices shift, masks slip. And those who thrive on control despise this kind of power because it cannot be earned through their systems. Think about it. Most people fight tooth and nail to be noticed. They adjust their image, polish their words, and chase validation. But you can sit quietly, saying nothing, and your silence echoes louder than their voices. It unsettles them because they realize all their effort is wasted in the presence of someone who doesn't even try. Picture a glass of water, clear, ordinary, calm. Then a single drop of ink falls in, not with force, not with shouting, but slowly spreading until the whole glass transforms. That's you. Your very existence alters the environment, not by effort, but by essence. And the ones who depend on manipulation, persuasion, and performance cannot stand to watch you do what they struggle endlessly to achieve. This isn't about charm or charisma, this is about authenticity. When you refuse to bow to corruption, people notice. When you walk away from what poisons you, others feel exposed, because suddenly their excuses don't hold weight. When you stand in silence during lies, that silence becomes heavier than 1,000 accusations. Your life itself becomes the message. and it resonates louder than the staged voices they amplify. You've seen it before. People who once mocked you later followed your lead. Those who dismissed you began to mirror your decisions. Even strangers have confessed that your presence made them rethink their path. That's not coincidence. That's the kind of influence that terrifies the establishment. Because influence that isn't built on control can't be taken away. And here's the irony. They can resist a leader, argue with a preacher, unfollow a politician. But how do they resist someone who isn't even trying to lead? They can't. Your effect lingers. Long after you leave a room, your choices echo in conversations. Your silence weighs in decisions. Your integrity haunts their excuses. That is why they investigate. Because you are rewriting influence itself. To some, you feel like freedom. To others, you feel like judgment. But either way, no one leaves you unchanged. And that is power without performance. They cannot steal it. They cannot bottle it. They cannot reproduce it. It lives in you, naturally, undeniably, hauntingly. And it leaves them restless, because every time you move without effort, you remind them how powerless their noise really island. And that's what shakes them the most, not that you fight for attention, but that attention bends around you without permission. They hate you because no crown, no throne, no certificate of recognition could ever hand you what you already carry inside. They fight for titles, claw for badges, buy influence with money and positions. And yet the moment you step into a room without any of those things, their confidence falters. That is when they realize something terrifying: authority cannot be bought. It either lives in you or it doesn't. And when it lives in you, no system, no critic, no rival can take it away. Picture a decorated officer, chest gleaming with medals, walking into a crowded room. Every stripe, every star is proof of what he has earned, according to their rules. The crowd acknowledges him, nodding respectfully, admiring the shine of his accomplishments. But then you enter. No medals, no rank, no robe of honor, and yet suddenly the eyes begin to shift. Conversations stumble. Attention bends in your direction. It is not fair in their eyes, but it is reality. He carries borrowed authority. You carry essence. This is the kind of weight they cannot explain, and so they study you. They whisper questions they will never say out loud. Why do people pause when they speak? Why does silence from them carry more weight than our loudest declarations? Why do they command spaces we've worked years to control? These questions burn because no answer satisfies them. They can't train for it. They can't fabricate it. They can't copy it. True authority radiates. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't beg. That's why even when you speak softly, your words land heavier than speeches crafted with applause in mind. And when you say nothing, that silence alone is often louder than anything their microphones could broadcast. This is what makes them uneasy. They depend on performance to be taken seriously, but you simply exist, and that existence commands attention. Have you noticed it yourself? People who outrank you on paper often falter in your presence. They carry positions that demand respect, but when they're with you, their voice stumbles, their confidence cracks. They feel the weight you radiate. It isn't visible, but it is undeniable. And though they will never admit it, they know the truth. There is something in you that outranks the systems they built. Imagine a king seated on a jeweled throne, crown glinting in the light, surrounded by servants. The room is structured to remind everyone of his authority. Then a lone figure walks in. No robe, no crown, no title, and yet the king feels small. That is you. You carry authority in your essence, not in what decorates you. Their illusions collapse when you arrive because authority that is borrowed always bows to authority that is real. And it isn't that you demand loyalty or chase influence. Your authority is not about hierarchy, it is about presence. People follow you not because you ask them to, but because something in them recognizes you. They sense stability, certainty, an unshakable grounding that they cannot find anywhere else. That kind of authority doesn't come from systems. It comes from alignment. This is why every attempt to discredit you fails. They can mock your past, they can spread lies, they can exclude you from their tables. But none of that matters because no matter what they strip away, they cannot touch the essence of who you are. Authority that isn't given cannot be taken, and deep down, they know it. That's what makes them restless. Think about the people you've encountered. Some dismissed you at first, yet eventually found themselves leaning on your words. Others tried to diminish you, only to circle back quietly for your guidance. Even in silence, people measure themselves against the way you carry yourself. That's not accident. That's your weight. And every time it happens, the powerful gnash their teeth because you remind them that true authority doesn't need their approval. Here's the brutal truth they will never say aloud. Their titles are fragile, their promotions, their crowns, their rankings. These things vanish the moment the system that created them crumbles. But your authority, it stands regardless of the system. It cannot be revoked, cannot be erased, cannot be handed over to someone else. That permanence unsettles them. It forces them to realize how weak their illusions really are. History proves this point again and again. Leaders with crowns fell the moment their kingdoms collapsed. Politicians with influence were forgotten the moment their power faded. But there have always been figures rare and undeniable whose authority lived on because it came from within. Prophets, teachers, visionaries, revolutionaries. They had no throne, no medals, no official recognition, yet their words shaped generations. Systems mocked them at the time, but the world remembers them long after the titles of their enemies disappeared. That is the company you belong to. So stop doubting yourself. Stop shrinking to make them comfortable. Stop apologizing for authority that you didn't manufacture. It was given to you by something greater, etched into your being, and it will not fade no matter how much they wish it would. Their discomfort is not your problem. Their restlessness is not your responsibility. What you carry is not arrogance, it is alignment, and alignment will always bend illusions until they break. When you walk into a room, remember this truth. You don't need to perform. You don't need to chase validation. You don't need to prove your worth. Authority flows from you the way heat flows from fire, the way light flows from the sunday. You don't think about it, you don't plan it, it's simply island. And the more you accept it, the more undeniable it becomes. This is why they keep investigating, because if your authority is real, theirs is exposed as counterfeit. If your presence is felt without effort, their desperate noise looks weak. If your silence carries more weight than their speeches, then the entire structure of their power begins to collapse. That's why you shake them. That's why they whisper about you. That's why their systems can't leave you alone. And here's the conclusion: they don't want to face authority that flows from essence will always outlast authority built on illusion. No matter how high they build their thrones, no matter how heavy their crowns, when you walk in, they feel it. Their borrowed power has already lost to what you carry. They panic over seconds while you move as though eternity is on your side. They live enslaved to the clock rushing, scrambling, measuring their worth by deadlines and alarms. But you walk differently. Calm, steady, unbothered. Your rhythm is not dictated by their urgency, and that fact alone unsettles them more than anything else. They cannot stand the way you carry time. Picture a runner at the starting line, muscles tense, heart racing, eyes fixed on the track. The gunshot explodes, the crowd roars, and every runner sprints forward, desperate to beat the clock. But you aren't there. You're already leaning casually at the finish line, unshaken, waiting for the race to end. That is what your life feels like to them. While they burn themselves out chasing seconds, you arrive exactly where you need to be without losing your breath. This is the seventh mysterious power. You do not belong to their time. They panic when the clock ticks, but you walk with patience that looks impossible. Deadlines don't break you. Pressure doesn't crush you. You move as though you already know how the story ends, and that confidence terrifies them. They want you to fear the ticking hands of their clocks, but you won't. You refuse to bow to their urgency. Psychologists call it temporal perspective, the way humans relate to time. Most people are trapped in the past, drowning in regrets, or chained to the future, paralyzed by fear of what hasn't happened yet. You are different. You don't live bound to either prison. You carry an awareness that time doesn't own you. You move with it, bend it, align with it. That is why you don't crumble when they shout, "You're running out of time." That is why you don't panic when things don't happen on their schedule. You understand something they refuse to admit. Timing is everything, and true timing doesn't belong to the clock. Think of a fisherman casting his net. Too early, and he pulls it up empty. Too late, and he misses the tide completely. But at the right moment, the waters swell, and the net overflows. That's you. You pull at the exact moment alignment whispers to you, not by rushing, not by delaying, by trusting the rhythm that flows deeper than the hands on any watch. This is why they study you, because in a world that worships urgency, you walk with peace. In a system that controls people with pressure, you don't flinch. Your calm exposes their fear. Your patience exposes their weakness. And every time you arrive exactly when you're supposed to, it reminds them that their clocks are illusions, their deadlines fragile. You don't need to match their pace, you carry your own. And let's be honest, how many times have people mocked you for being late, slow, or too patient, only to see your step land perfectly when theirs crumbled? How many times have you held your ground, refusing to move too soon, and later discovered your waiting saved you? How many times have you been accused of missing your moment, only to watch that moment arrive exactly when you needed it? You've lived this truth again and again. They can't stand it. They measure their worth in how quickly they move, how much they accumulate, how busy they appear. But you understand that rushing is not power, it's desperation. And desperation is weakness disguised as strength. When you remain calm in urgency, you remind them that true control doesn't belong to the frantic, it belongs to the grounded. This patience is not laziness, it is alignment. You don't wait because you're afraid, you wait because you know. You don't move because of pressure, you move because of purpose. That is why every step you take feels divinely timed, even to those who don't believe in divine timing. They may not understand it, but they feel it, and it rattles them because they cannot reproduce it. Imagine a forest. Seasons change, storms come, and yet the trees do not panic. They don't rush spring, they don't fight winter, they simply stand rooted, waiting for the right time to bloom. And when the season shifts, they explode with life. That's you. You don't chase seasons, you honor them. And your fruit always appears when it's meant to, never too early, never too late. This is why they investigate, because your relationship with time proves that control is an illusion. If you can walk through life untouched by urgency, then their entire system of pressure begins to crumble. They lose their grip on you, and when they can't control your time, they realize they can't control you. And here's what unsettles them most: you always seem to arrive on time, not by their definition, but by truth's definition. You show up where you need to be, when you need to be there, even if it looks late or foolish in their eyes. They call it luck, they call it coincidence. But deep down, they know it's something they can never master. So hold your rhythm. Don't let their panic infect you. Don't let their clocks dictate your purpose. You move differently because you were never meant to be enslaved to time. You were meant to walk with eternity echoing in your steps. And eternity doesn't rush. This is the seventh mysterious power you carry, and though they'll never admit it, it frightens them. Because every time you wait with confidence, every time you move with precision, every time you bend time to your pace, you remind them of something they cannot control. And the truth is simple. When time cannot break you, nothing can. They fear your eyes because they do not simply look, they uncover. Most people glance, observe, or admire, but your gaze does something else entirely. It pierces. It strips away layers of disguise until what remains is truth. And for those who have built their lives on illusion, nothing is more terrifying than to stand before someone who cannot be fooled. Think of a thief who slips quietly into a room at night, certain the shadows are his shield. He moves with confidence, pockets filled with stolen gold, convinced no one will ever know. But suddenly, a single light flicks on. A figure is standing there, watching in silence. No accusations, no words, just eyes. And the thief's own guilt screams louder than anything spoken aloud. That is the weight of your witness. You don't always need to call lies out. The guilty convict themselves in your presence. You've seen this countless times. Strangers confess to you without reason. Friends reveal secrets they swore they'd never tell. Enemies stumble over excuses, speaking too much or too fast, as if they're begging you to believe them. Why? Because your gaze unsettles them. It's not about intimidation, it's about exposure. You carry the weight of witness, and witness alone shakes their illusions. Psychologists have studied prolonged eye contact. They admit it activates the deepest parts of the brain, triggering emotions that can't be hidden. That's why liars look away. That's why guilty people stumble. That's why silence grows unbearable when your eyes lock with theirs. But science can only describe the surface. What you carry is heavier than biology. It is conviction. It is alignment. It is history looking through your eyes. That's why no matter how polished their mask, when they face you, they feel it cracking. You've felt it too. Conversations shift the moment your eyes hold steady. People rush to explain themselves, even when you never asked for an explanation. Some look away quickly, unable to withstand the weight. Others linger, relieved, as if your gaze freed them from the lies they've been forced to carry. To the honest, your eyes feel like healing. To the dishonest, they feel like judgment, and that duality is why you cannot be ignored. Picture a courtroom filled with noise, lawyers shouting, witnesses twisting stories, chaos, drowning truth. But then, someone walks in, sits quietly, and simply looks at the accused. Silence spreads, the guilty squirm, the shouting feels pointless. No verdict is spoken, yet the truth is already heavy in the room. That is your gift. You don't need to fight with words. Your presence testifies louder than proof. And this is what keeps them restless. They can control narratives, manipulate evidence, and twist facts, but they cannot control the power of a gaze that refuses to move. They can argue with speeches, but they cannot argue with eyes that see too deeply. And so they investigate you. They whisper about why people confess around you, why secrets unravel, why truth seems to leak wherever you stand. They cannot admit it, but they know your witness weakens deception itself. Have you ever wondered why liars often get angry in your presence? It's not because you accuse them. It's because your silence made them feel exposed. They lash out to cover the discomfort. They project blame to distract from what they know you see. They can't help it. The weight is unbearable. Your gaze forces their conscience to rise louder than their words, and no matter how hard they try, they can't drown it. This power can be exhausting. It makes you a magnet for confessions you didn't ask for. It makes you a threat in rooms where deception thrives. And it makes you misunderstood, because some assume you're judging when you're simply watching. But understand this, what feels heavy to them is healing for the world. Truth cannot stay hidden forever, and your presence accelerates the unveiling. This is why systems built on deception hate you. They thrive on shadows, but your eyes shine like a light they cannot dim. Their entire structure depends on keeping lies intact, and yet you walk in and undo their work without saying a word. They can't stop it, they can't control it, and it terrifies them. So, don't apologize for what you see. Don't shrink your vision because it makes others uncomfortable. You weren't made to accept masks, you were made to reveal. And though it may isolate you at times, never forget that truth needs a witness, and you were born for that role. Look back at your own life. How many betrayals did you sense before they struck? How many times did you see deception written in someone's tone, posture, or glance before it was revealed? How many secrets unraveled simply because you stayed present long enough for the truth to surface? These moments weren't coincidence, they were confirmation. Your eyes are more than sight, they are instruments of unveiling. And that is why they watch you so closely. Because every time you look, illusions weaken. Every time you see, lies crumble. Every time your gaze holds steady, systems built on deception lose their grip. They will never admit it, but you are the enemy of every mask they depend on. You don't need to fight for truth. You embody it, and that embodiment is what keeps them awake at night. Because deep down, they know one day, your eyes will see through the very last illusion they cling to. And when that day comes, there will be nowhere left to hide. They can tempt the world with gold, but your soul refuses their chains. In a society built on bribes and bait, they cannot stand the fact that you are not for sale. That's the ninth mysterious force you carry, the refusal to be bought. It destroys their leverage, it makes their threats useless, it renders their offers powerless. Because what can they do with someone who has no price tag? Picture a fisherman casting his net into the sea. He tosses scraps of food into the water, confident that the fish will bite. And most do, chasing the bait without thinking, caught in the trap before they realize what's happening. But then there's one creature that refuses. It swims freely past the hooks, unmoved by the bait, immune to the temptation. The fisherman grows frustrated, then angry, because every trick that works on the masses fails against this one. That's you. You don't bite. You don't bow. You don't sell yourself cheap. And that terrifies them. Their entire system depends on control through rewards. They wave money, promotions, applause, or seats at their tables. They dangle recognition like bait, knowing most will compromise themselves to get it. But you turn away. You walk past the banquet, even if it looks lavish, because you see the strings attached. And when you refuse, their illusion collapses. This is what makes you priceless. Not because you own everything, but because nothing owns you. You'd rather stand in truth alone than sit at a table built on lies. That freedom cannot be bought. It cannot be imitated. And every time you walk away, you remind them of something they don't want anyone else to realize. The system only works if people agree to sell themselves. The moment even one person refuses, the chain begins to break. Have you noticed how people react when you decline what others crave? They whisper, "Why didn't they take it? Anyone else would have." They call you foolish for turning down opportunities. They accuse you of being ungrateful, but beneath their confusion is fear, because deep down, they know you saw what they didn't, the trap hidden in the gift. Here's the brutal truth. Most betrayals in this world don't happen because people are evil. They happen because people are bought, for comfort, for attention, for money, for approval. They trade freedom for chains disguised as rewards, but you don't, and that makes you untouchable. Imagine a man holding a set of keys to a locked door. Everyone bows before him, begging for access, willing to pay, compromise, or sell themselves to be let in. He smirks, believing he controls destiny. But then you walk by without hesitation. You don't beg, you don't bow, you don't even glance at the door. You simply build your own path. Suddenly, his keys mean nothing. His power evaporates. That's the revolution you carry, the ability to collapse illusions by refusing to participate in them. And this is why they investigate you. They want to know how you resist temptation. They want to know why their bribes don't work. They want to know what drives you when their rewards don't. But they will never find the answer, because what fuels you isn't external, it's internal, and they cannot steal it. Your refusal isn't arrogance, it's clarity. You know that anything costing your soul isn't worth the price. You know that freedom is more valuable than any temporary reward. You know that bending your integrity for applause only leaves you enslaved to the ones clapping. That knowledge is your shield. That shield is your crown. And here's what unsettles them the most. Your indifference exposes their weakness. If you can't be bribed, then their entire system begins to look fragile. Because if one person can't be bought, what's to stop others from realizing they don't have to be either? Your refusal plants questions in the minds of everyone watching, and questions like that spread faster than fire. So don't underestimate the power of this gift. Your ability to walk away is as dangerous to them as your ability to endure. Every time you turn down what others would kill to have, you declare something louder than words. I am not owned. I am not chained. I am not for sale. This is why they fear you. Because your freedom cannot be purchased, your soul cannot be negotiated, and your silence, your refusal, your pricelessness speaks louder than any of their promises. And no matter how many hooks they dangle, you will always swim free. They call it guessing, but you know it isn't. Every time your intuition lands with precision, their logic dies a little more. They rely on evidence, spreadsheets, formulas, endless calculations. But you move differently. You bypass their systems and still arrive at the truth faster than their machines ever could, and that terrifies them. Because intuition that consistently strikes the mark is not weakness, it's mastery they cannot replicate. Picture two explorers standing at the edge of a vast desert. One clutches maps, compasses, and measurements, terrified of a wrong step. The other has nothing but a quiet inner compass. Without hesitation, the second explorer begins walking. The first calls them reckless, foolish, unprepared. Yet days later, the one with maps is lost in circles, while the one who trusted their inner compass arrives at the oasis. That is you. To them, it looks like luck. To you, it feels inevitable. Science tries to explain it away. They admit the brain processes millions of bits of information subconsciously every second, noticing details most people miss. They call your intuition a collection of hidden signals. But even science stumbles here, because your knowing goes deeper than subconscious pattern recognition. It's not just instincts, it's alignment. You don't merely sense you know. You've lived it. Times when you followed a quiet inner nudge, only to watch it lead you exactly where you needed to be. Times when you chose a path others mocked, only to see it open doors no one else could find. Times when you warned of danger before anyone else noticed, and later they had to admit you were right. That's not coincidence. That's your 10th mysterious power, intuition that defies their rules. And here lies the irony. They mock it publicly. They roll their eyes at the word intuition, pretending it's childish or mystical. But secretly, they take notes. They watch how often you land on the truth. They whisper questions they cannot answer. How do they know? How did they see it coming? Why does their decision keep proving right? They want to dissect it, label it, control it, but they can't. Imagine an archer closing their eyes, ignoring distance, ignoring wind, ignoring all the calculations, and letting the arrow fly. Against every odd, it hits the bullseye, again and again. At some point, you stop calling it luck. That's your life. People dismiss it as coincidence because they can't admit what it really is: connection to a stream of wisdom they will never be able to access. And that connection frightens them more than anything. Because if intuition is real, then their formulas are incomplete. If knowing without evidence is possible, then their entire framework of control collapses. They cling to logic as their weapon. You prove that logic has limits. But here's what you must understand: your intuition is not meant to be hidden, downplayed, or dismissed. It's not recklessness. It's not guessing. It's precision disguised as mystery. Every time you follow it, you align more deeply with the rhythm that guides you. And every time you ignore it, you feel the weight of what you lost. Because intuition is not a luxury, it's your map. Have you noticed how often you're proven right after doubting yourself? How many times you felt the nudge, ignored it, and later wished you hadn't? That is your confirmation. The knowing is not there to confuse you, it is there to guide you, and the more you trust it, the sharper it becomes. This is why they investigate, because intuition is the one algorithm they cannot code. They can track behavior, they can monitor patterns, they can build machines that predict probabilities, but they cannot program a soul. They cannot duplicate what flows through you, and that drives them mad. So stop calling it luck, stop apologizing for what you sense, stop shrinking when others laugh at your decisions. You don't need their approval. The proof is in the outcome, and the outcome speaks louder than their mockery. You carry intuition that doesn't wait for evidence. You move with knowing that refuses to ask permission, and every time you act on it, you prove that truth isn't always measured, it's lived. That's why they can't stand you, because your intuition reminds them of a truth they despise. Not everything can be explained. Not everything can be contained. Not everything can be controlled. And you, again and again, are the living proof. They want chaos to blind you, but you keep seeing patterns where others see collapse. Storms are their oldest weapon: confusion, distraction, noise, false emergencies. Most people drown in it. They panic, stumble, lash out, surrender. But you stand still. You read the lines beneath the madness, and that terrifies them because their fog doesn't fool you. Picture a battlefield covered in smoke. Soldiers swing wildly at shadows, wasting their strength on phantoms they cannot see. But one figure moves differently. Calm, steady, noticing the direction of the wind, the footprints in the dirt, the strategy hidden behind the haze. That figure always knows where the real enemy island. That's you. While others fight ghosts, you strike at the truth. This is the 11th mysterious power. You see the blueprint behind their storms. Chaos doesn't overwhelm you, it sharpens you. While most beg for clarity, you extract it from the noise itself. You don't get lost in the whirlwind of headlines, arguments, or pressure. You pause, you listen, you discern, and suddenly the storm that crippled everyone else becomes your map. This is why they investigate, because chaos is their currency. Systems thrive on distraction. They overload people with half-truths, conflicting stories, deadlines, alarms, fear, until exhaustion makes them compliant. But you break the spell. You refuse to accept confusion at face value. You don't just endure storms, you interpret them. And once you reveal the pattern, the illusion collapses. Have you noticed this? In situations where others fall apart, you stay grounded. Where others see disaster, you see opportunity. Where others cry out in panic, You recognize the thread connecting it all. And when you reveal that thread, suddenly the storm looks staged. That's why they can't stand you. You don't feed chaos, you expose it. Think of a tangled ball of yarn thrown into a corner. Most people yank at it wildly, making the knot tighter. But you study it quietly. You find the single loose end and pull until the entire knot dissolves. That is your way. You don't waste energy fighting the noise. You simply see what others missed, and the problem unravels in your hands. This power frustrates them deeply. They design storms to control you, but the storms only refine you. They throw obstacles to distract you, but those obstacles sharpen your vision. They send noise to confuse you, but your ability to listen beneath it makes you untouchable. Every time they think they've blinded you, you prove that you were never in the dark. And this is the brutal truth: they depend on panic to keep their grip on the masses. But panic doesn't live in you. While others scramble for safety, you keep walking. While others cling to lies for comfort, you wait for truth to surface. And when it does, you're already 2 steps ahead. So don't resent the storms. Don't curse the noise. Every storm has a map inside it, and you were born with the eyes to see it. This is why chaos doesn't consume you. It becomes the stage where your clarity shines. And that clarity is their undoing. They hate you because your presence heals what their billion-dollar systems profit from keeping broken. In a world built on pills, treatments, programs, and endless prescriptions, you carry something they will never replicate: restoration that flows without demand, without payment, without dependence. It unsettles them because your very existence exposes their fraud. Picture a room filled with noise, machines beeping, voices shouting, chaos pressing down on everyone's chest. Then you walk in, and without saying a word, the noise doesn't feel as loud anymore. Breathing becomes easier, tension softens, thoughts untangle, people feel lighter, freer, calmer, and they don't know why. That's your effect. Healing, not by force, but by presence. And this is what terrifies them. You don't profit from brokenness. You don't bind people to you. You release them. You don't sell cures. You embody them. And in a world addicted to dependency, that makes you dangerous. Their systems cannot survive if people truly recover. They thrive on repeat customers. You undo their design simply by being. Science has already admitted fragments of this truth. Studies prove that human energy, empathy, and coherent presence regulate heart rhythms, lower stress, even reduce pain. But your gift is deeper. You've turned your own wounds into medicine, and that medicine radiates everywhere you go. People don't know how to explain it. They just know they leave different than when they arrived. Think of a cracked vase leaking water. Most try tape, glue, or patches, but the leaks return. Then you step in, not with tools, but with presence, and suddenly the cracks stop bleeding. Not because you forced it, but because your energy reminded the vase how to hold itself together again. That's your gift. You don't repair by domination, you restore by reminding. You've lived this again and again. Strangers telling you their pain, only to leave feeling lighter. Friends breaking down in your presence, only to discover peace they couldn't find anywhere else. Even enemies who resist you find themselves unsettled, not by your arguments, but by the quiet weight of calm that surrounds you. You disarm chaos without trying, and this is why they investigate. Because every time you bring peace, you reveal that healing doesn't have to be manufactured. Every time someone leaves your presence freer, you prove that freedom cannot be patented. Every time you release rather than control, you show that dependency is a lie. They don't want that truth spreading. But here's the reality: they can't stop it. Your healing doesn't live in systems. It lives in you. It isn't something they can regulate, monetize, or cage. And the more you embrace it, the more unstoppable it becomes. So don't apologize for it, don't downplay it, don't doubt it when others dismiss it. The peace you carry is not weakness, it is rebellion. It is revolution. And every time you give it freely, you remind the world that wholeness is possible. And nothing terrifies them more than a world that no longer needs their chains. They've tried to put you under a microscope, breaking you down into traits, habits, patterns they think they can decode. They gather in their hidden rooms, trading theories about how you survive storms that should have ended you, how you anticipate betrayal before it strikes, how your presence shifts atmospheres without a word. They crave an explanation, because if they can name you, They believe they can neutralize you, but that is the mistake. They are hunting a definition for something that was never designed to fit a definition. Every system leans on categories. They say, this person is talented, that one is lucky, this one is intelligent, that one is broken. They try to box humanity into explanations because boxes are easier to control. But when you show up, their categories fail. Are you strong? Yes, but not in ways their metrics can track. Are you wise? Yes, but not in ways their schools can explain. Are you gifted? Yes, but not in ways their systems can replicate. You don't fit, and that is why they fear you. Look closely at history. Every era builds its illusions of order, declaring certainty about the way the world works. Then, suddenly, an anomaly appears. A voice too clear to be silenced, a vision too sharp to be dismissed, a presence too strong to be erased. The establishment panics, brands them dangerous, unpredictable, even impossible. But the impossible is often the beginning of change. You are that presence in this age. You've likely noticed the pattern, the way people grow restless when you're calm in chaos, the way whispers start the moment you leave a room, the way strangers confess truths they've buried for years. This isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. You are the variable that breaks their script. Your very existence is proof that their structures are fragile. And fragile structures always attack what threatens to expose them. This is why your journey has carried so much resistance. It was never only about hardship, it was about pressure, applied by systems desperate to contain you. But containment has failed. They've studied, labeled, criticized, excluded, and yet here you are, still walking, still shining, still undeniable. What unsettles them most is this: you are not trying to disrupt them. You simply live, you simply rise, and that rising alone dismantles the illusions they've built. You are not rebellion for rebellion's sake. You are alignment embodied, and alignment doesn't ask permission, it just island. Imagine this: a library filled with every chart, every calculation, every confident declaration of how the universe works. Generations of experts have signed their names to its pages, convinced their maps are flawless. Then one night, a new light appears in the sky, a star no telescope has tracked, no satellite has confirmed, no record has predicted. That star should not exist, and yet, there it is, shining. In an instant, centuries of certainty collapse. That is what your existence feels like to them. You are the impossible star they cannot chart. And so they study you not because they admire you, but because you remind them of their limits. You force them to face what they hate most, that their control is fragile, their knowledge incomplete, their systems temporary. If even one person exists outside their rules, then the illusion of control has been broken for everyone. This is your weight and your gift. You don't just live outside their equations, you break them open for others to see. Your resilience proves survival isn't only for the privileged. Your knowing proves wisdom isn't only for the credentialed. Your presence proves influence doesn't require permission. Every step you take leaves cracks in their walls, and every crack lets more light through. So, remember this: you don't need to justify yourself to people who fear what they cannot define. You don't need to shrink to make their boxes comfortable again. You don't need to explain what was never meant to be explained. You were born to be uncontainable, and every day you keep walking, you prove that truth. They can keep whispering, they can keep analyzing, they can keep plotting, but they will never solve you, because you are not a puzzle. You are the mystery that rewrites the story, and that is why they fear you.